Even if there were no customers to serve, our group would be hastily dispersed with warnings not to do that again. At the same time, you should know management has the right to assemble workers for hours at a time on issues completely unrelated to the task at hand, and that is what management does when there is a threat of a union organizing drive, has forced attendance meetings where you may sit for hours and hear harangues about the dangers of unions. Another missing right, this again, a total shock to me, is the right to pee when you feel like it. Let's put it that way. You know, you have to pee sometimes when you don't feel like it, but the right to take a bathroom break. There's a whole academic book on this subject, an excellent book by Mark Linder and Ingrid Nygaard called "Void Where Prohibited." Rest breaks and the right to urinate on company time. And it's true that in the past few years, OSHA issued a guideline saying that if you know, an assembly night or something, you raise your hand and say you need to go to the bathroom, that you should get a response from management within a, quote, timely fashion. But this guideline is not enforced. Now, waitresses can usually dart away and go to the bathroom. Professionals certainly can. Not so, though, for many cashiers or assembly line workers. And what they have taken to doing is, their strategy is very often to wear adult diapers to work. Yeah, you wonder why there's so many adult diapers on all those shelves? It's not because everybody over 60 is incontinent. So I think my strategy then for those workers in those situations would be to say, excuse me, I have to deliver an important sample. And then maybe they'll let you leave the assembly line. Because that seems to be the only condition in which you can relieve yourself. Now, there have been no advances in workers' rights even given this labor shortage, which should make things easier. In some areas, people have lost ground. Workers have lost a lot of ground. Privacy is the biggest area of loss in the last 5 or 6 years. Well, 10 years, really. Here, too, the baseline is not impressive. There never was any right to privacy in the workplace. Another shock I had my very first day as a journalist/waitress was that my fellow workers warned me that my purse could be searched at any moment, at any time, by management, presumably for illegal drugs, but also for stolen salt shakers or anything else that I might have felt like absconding with. And I, again, found out this was entirely legal. Anything you bring, your backpack, your purse can be can be looked into by the boss. Electronic spying now. That has grown ferociously in the last decades. 2/3 of companies now use electronic means to monitor their employees, videotaping them, which is often secret, and sometimes, again, related strangely in management's mind to drugs. One case currently being litigated is of 2 men who worked for a hotel who were found out they were being videotaped in the men's dressing room, while they were changing into their work clothes. And the rationale given was that there might have been some drug dealing going on there. Electronic spying on employees includes reviewing their email, including personal email, their voicemail, monitoring any websites they might visit on company computers during lunchtime. And as Louis Maltby at the National Work Rights Center in Princeton points out, people use their lunchtime, they're doing any web surfing in the lunchtime, it's often to find out how to deal with some problem, a family problem, a medical problem, and so on. And that's the kind of thing that companies want to pick up on. They want to know if you have a medical problem that could be expensive for the company health plan. Another high-tech form of intrusion, genetic testing. About 6 to 10% of employers now do pre-employment genetic testing to see whether you might have a disease such as a genetic disease such as Huntington's disease, which could be very costly for the company health plan. And one woman was fired on precisely that ground. She was not sick in any way. She had the gene, though. She was fired, and National Center for Workplace Rights is investigating that. But of course, the most ubiquitous form of invasion of privacy is drug testing. And if it doesn't serve the advertised functions, you might ask, what purpose does it serve? One thing I noticed doing in my on-site investigation as a waitress and working in other low-wage jobs is that it was used as a punishment. It was used as a threat. I won't tell the whole anecdote now, but it turned out actually that management had been involved in some drug trafficking right in our place of work. However, the workers, the lower level workers, were gathered together, and we were told that if there were any other such drug incidents, although we hadn't been any part of this, he would institute random testing of us all. So it was a punishment, really. A punishment which, of course, works better because it is a little bit humiliating. In some drug protocols, you take off everything but your underwear, and then you have to pee in front of some stranger. But there's another function, I think, of urine testing which needs to be mentioned. And that is that that they have to, whoever's doing the test, the aide, the technician, whatever, has to get a complete list of all the prescription drugs you're taking. That's part of it, because these could interfere with the test. So there you are. You have to list any antidepressants, any antipsychotic drugs, any lithium, etc. And they know, through that, once again, how to weed out those people who might eventually be expensive for the company health plan. Not to mention, drug testing allows them to weed out those so-called troublemakers who are just too independent-minded to submit to a test, whether they might be drug users or not. So, welcome to the 21st century workplace. Just be sure to check civil rights at the door. It's in no sense can you make an argument, I think, that this degree of draconian control over individual behavior, people are freer than in other places. They move around the office on skateboards, they wear grunge clothes, they can talk back. Creativity, if there is such creativity in the internet startups, and I've no reason to assume not, does not go with the degree of authoritarianism that most management likes to impose. We have to face the fact that in most cases, American business has looked at the trade-off between control and creativity and decided they'd rather have total control than have the workers be creative. The big mystery is why American workers put up with this. Why have people so meekly surrendered their rights? Well, one part of the answer has to be that unions are weak, relatively weak. They have declined in membership for 3 decades. But unions have not put a big emphasis on these issues of workplace rights, I'm sorry to say. Right now, the AFL-CIO is gearing up for a nationwide drive to secure the right to organize, which officially exists, but is constantly violated simply by illegal firings of people who are interested in joining the movement. Now, my response to the AFL-CIO is, what about all the other rights missing in the workplace? It's not just the right to organize. And in fact, how can you have the right to organize if you can't freely communicate with your fellow workers? If you don't dare, for example, carry union literature in your pocketbook, because that could be searched at all times. In other words, you can't get together to improve your lot in other ways if you are living under this degree of scrutiny. Another thing that I worry about very much, or the possibility in explaining why people put up with it, is that we get inured to these kinds of assaults on our dignity. Much as travelers in this country have learned to submit like sheep to all those airport security measures, which have as much to do with airline safety as saying a few Hail Marys before getting onto the plane. I mean, planes don't go down because passengers like me are carrying bombs in their pocketbooks. So let's not even get into that today. Anyway, the